Hey everyone, welcome to this SUPboarder video where we're going to be speaking about the Duotone unit in the SLS Concept Blue construction. Going to give you a rundown of what Duotone wanted to achieve with this new wing, but also going to give you our thoughts and impressions of this wing, looking at what it handles like in multiple different conditions, what it's like with handles or booms. We're also going to be comparing this wing to our 2024 unit in the D-Lab construction, and hopefully by the end of this video you'll have a very good understanding of if this wing is right for you. So if that sounds your cup of tea, definitely check this full video out. Just a break, guys, to remember to check out SUPboarder Pro if you haven't already, which is the next level of SUP and foil content. There's loads of really interesting features and videos on there, and also you can ask us infinite number of questions on Ask the Experts to making sure you get on the best kit for you or learn the best technique. Check out SUPboarder Pro. So this is the 5th generation of the unit in the Duotone range. A very successful, very popular wing in the range, good for all types of winging, and Duotone definitely wanted to make this unit a little bit more user-friendly this year. So what they wanted to achieve this year was more low-end power and grunt to get you up in those lighter winds, but then also be more stable in gust or higher wind conditions as well. They really wanted to focus on making the wing way more neutral this year, so having less upward lift, making it easier to jibe and tack. This also had made it a little bit more stable to use in the surf and when you're downwind or parking the wing. To increase this performance when flagging, they've done a lot more work on this central handle, making it a lot stiffer, easier to hold, and the massive one that they wanted to give you more options with regarding a boom or handle setup. Now the unit is available in the standard construction, the SLS Concept Blue construction, which is what we have here, and the D-Lab construction. The price does vary quite a bit between those wings. If we look at them all in a 4.5 metre, the unit standard retails at £1,004 with boom or handle setup. The SLS retails at £1,244 with boom or handle setup, and the full D-Lab construction retails at £1,804 with a boom or handle setup. They do come as standard without the booms or handles, but those prices I've given you are including them. You can get these wings in a big range of sizes in half-metre increments from 2 metre all the way up to a 6 metre. So we did a review last year of the unit when we looked at the standard construction and the D-Lab construction. This is a new construction for this year. So they didn't have the SLS in the unit range last year. Now you have 3 different constructions, and we do think this one, the SLS, is going to be the most popular with you all. But let's jump into why we think that is. So one of the most obvious changes for this year is the handles or boom setup. Right at the moment we have got it fitted in the full boom setup. We have been using it with both the boom or handles. Now it is going to be a personal preference whether you want to go towards a boom or handle. We will definitely say if you've come from a windsurfing background, you will probably prefer the full boom setup. Just having way more freedom for your hand to go in any position, and it will be much more intuitive for you to come from, as I said, windsurfing. When you go into jibes like this, you'll be able to slide your hand right the way down the boom, and we personally found it a nicer experience. But you will find the boom is slightly further away from the main tube. The handles are slightly closer, and that will change how the feels on the water. The one we've been using is the 4.5 metre. We do think potentially you could find a bigger difference in feel if you're looking at maybe the 5.5 or the 6 metre. That's obviously a much bigger wing. That's where you may feel a difference, and maybe the handles will allow you to be a little bit closer to the wing and give you a better experience. Obviously the stiffness there is going to make a difference as well on those bigger wings. Whether you go for the handles or the boom, they are very well shaped. They are full carbon handles or boom. They're what they call the oval pistol style grip handle. So it's a very easy, very comfortable to hold. We do think the way they've finished off the boom or the handles and the way they fixed them to the wing, it's just really quite nice, quite smooth. There's no sharp edges. They've really thought about everything. Nice caps that fit into the cover the torque screws really well. It is very quick and easy to take on and off your boom or handles, and we have done it inflated and deflated. There's lots of more finer details in this wing compared to the previous wings. Like if you're going for a full boom setup, they've given you EVA foam pads to put over these holes so they don't fill up with water or sand. It just looks way nicer and more top end. When it comes to the weight of the wing, whether you're going for boom or handles, there is a tiny weight difference, and the booms one is actually lighter. When we weighed this 4.5 meter, it weighed 2.52 kilograms, and with the handles, it weighed 2.56. So barely anything in it. Really, it's not really a deciding factor when it comes to weight. So whether you're going for a boom or handle, it's the same price, it's £85. The only other thing to consider is if you go for the full boom, you are not going to be able to pack down your wing so small, but they do allow you to have an extension piece on the bag to fit your full wing in. So if you're looking at traveling in a more of a compact way, definitely the handles is going to offer you a smaller bag. So let's jump into some of the design materials that they've put into this, the SLS Concept Blue wing especially. Now, the Concept Blue is a wing that's trying to reduce its environmental impact. And they've done that by reducing really the amount of dyes and colours that are in the fabrics. And I personally think this white wing is a very tasteful looking wing. Still doesn't mean there's not colours and nice things to see in this wing. They've done lots of other subtle things to make the wing look really quite special. Like the stitch work they've used in the main canopy of the wing is a multicoloured stitch. So it changes from blue, yellow, orange, red as it moves along. It's a very subtle thing, but it does make the wing look a little bit more special, and being on top of the white does make it look quite crisp. Looking at more of the materials itself, what you find is they've got the new Mod 3S material from this seam and down, okay? And then they've gone with a lighter base ripstop from here and up. And you will see that when you're looking at the canopy, it is slightly different from the last year's unit. It definitely hasn't got as much tension. Like they said, they were loosening off or making the central part of the canopy a little bit flatter. So Mod 3S, lighter ripstop nylon. Up at the main tube, the yellow central piece is Alula. Now this is a material that was first used back last year in the full D-Lab. All of the tubes in that one are Alula, very stiff, very lightweight, very good performing, very good at keeping the longevity, lifespan of the wing as well. They keep its shape for a very long time, it doesn't stretch. So they have opted to put Alula just in the mid front section, and then they've gone for Penta TX on the side of this Alula panel either side. Now they've found that this has given you the best control, the best stiffness, the best forgivingness as well. You could opt for obviously different amounts of Penta TX and different amounts of Alula to get you a different feel, but this is where they've worked out that the happiest medium for most riders. The good thing about the Penta TX and the Alula, it does bring the weight down, and it does give you that more performance, that more power at the low end grunt as well. But at the same time, you can lower the pressure of these wings really easily and change the characteristics of the wing, make it much more forgiving by dropping a PSI. Another thing that's definitely worth noting on the SLS Concept Blue models is the recycled parts. So a lot of the parts here, the valves, a lot of the plastics are recycled. It's just a little step forward to looking after our environment. And these little things do make a difference over time. And it's nice to see Duotone are really pushing towards that, and they've come up with this Concept Blue wing. Touching on the quality and workmanship, well, it's absolutely outstanding, as we have seen in all the Duotone wings, to be honest, since the very first foil wing I think we first saw back in 2017. Always good quality. So stitching, really good. The way they finished off the main tube is really good. There's mini bleach battens on the back there to stop the back of the wing from flapping. We are always very impressed with the build quality of these wings, and they definitely are at the top of the game when it comes to manufacturing wings. So let's jump into on-water performance with us, and then I'm going to go over what it was like compared to our 4-meter D-Lab from last year. So using this wing on the water, yes, it does deliver a good amount of low-end power, and the way it delivers that power is much nicer. I'm going to touch into it obviously than the last year's D-Lab, especially. It's much more gradual and it allows you to load up the wing but still gives you that good amount of grunt to get up on foil early. We had been using this wing in fairly light winds, 12, 11 knots for a 4.5 is fairly light, and we had it into higher winds of about 30 knots on a windier day as well. So in the low end winds, it does produce that power, gets you up onto the foil nicely. Because it's very light and responsive, it doesn't feel very heavy and big when you're pumping it. So we did find a 4.5 meter, we could still get up in very, very light winds with good pump technique. But when it got windy, it still had a good amount of controllability. Very smooth and easy to use. Definitely better than the last year's wing. I guess that's due to them, as I said, flattening out the center panel, make it a little bit more forgiving. Possibly also the materials that they're using in here as well. And the canopy tension all makes a difference to make the wing a little bit more forgiving. If we're looking at this wing with jibes and tacks, it is incredibly easy to jibe and tack. It has a lovely neutral feel. So what we mean by that is, especially if you're going into a tack, you throw your wing over your head and the wing doesn't push you down, the wing doesn't pull you up, the wing just stays exactly where you put it. Now, wings in the past and from some other brands, they have different feels. Some will give you more lift, some will give you negative lift, and it really does take a while to get used to. This wing, it's like straight away, straight out the bag, whether you've got boom or handles, it's very, very comfortable and very easy to use. So the neutral lift that they said they were going to give to this wing, they definitely have, and it does make maneuvers incredibly easy. The other big area that they said they're working on is making this wing easier to flag or park, as we used to call it. So with your downwind winging, whether you're catching some waves with your wing, you want to grab that front handle and you just want to hold it there and ride that waves. Now the stiffer handle makes a massive difference to just having more control on that wing. It's funny, we always thought about making the wing more balanced and making the wingtips work better. Yes, that does help, but having had this handles made me realize how much a stiff handle really makes more of a difference. The ability to you be able to control that wing with your hand will just keep that wing way more under control. So a stiffer, larger, more comfortable front handle allows you to do that, but it definitely doesn't rock from side to side as much as the previous Duotone wings. I mean, this is an all-round wing, so it's designed for lots of different things. So you might find if you want to bust big airs and get loads of lift, you maybe want to look for a wing with a more of an Lula front edge or a canopy that gives you a bit more positive lift. You're still going to be able to jump and do freestyle with this wing. You're still going to be able to wave ride and do all types of riding with this wing. I can see that they have designed it for literally all types of riders in all types of conditions, wanting to do all types of winging. Just remember, there is always a trade-off on the water. If you're wanting a powerful wing to get you up in lighter winds or have good controllability in gusts, you are gonna come to suffer a little bit when it comes to flagging and parking your wing and just using it for surfing. You know, a flat surf-based wing is going to be really easy when you're flagging, but it's not going to have that a good low-end power and grunt. So it is a compromise, it's a balance between having all of these elements and working out what is best for you as the rider. So now I want to jump into the comparison of this SLS 4.5 unit compared to our 4-meter unit D-Lab from last year. Now that is a smaller base wing, so it's going to be slightly different, but it's pretty close. The D-Lab from last year is an amazingly powerful wing, and it still has a huge amount of low-end grunt, but the way it delivers that grunt, really with that Alula fabric being so stiff, is a little bit more aggressive. It's a little bit more dramatic, and this compared to that is a much easier process or feeling to get the power, let's say. So maybe even the 4.5 compared to the 5, they're similar in power, but the way that the D-Lab from last year delivers that power is pretty dramatic. So definitely I remember thinking if you were a heavier person last year, you wanted more power, real low end grunt, the D-Lab is still going to be a super powerful wing, and I can imagine you can transfer that onto the newer ones in the full D-Lab construction from 2025 as well. Another thing that I think you could transfer onto the new ones for this year is the speed difference. The D-Lab is a faster wing. It's a smaller front leading edge, a smaller profile. It's quicker to move through the air. It was a way faster wing to use. Yes, it's a smaller wing again, but I think it is a step up in speed. So if you really are looking for speed performance, going as fast as possible, then the D-Lab is still the better option. There is no doubt our D-Lab from last year is a bit of a handful when it gets windy. And if you have not lowered that pressure, the PSI pressure, to allow for those gusts, you are going to get pulled around a little bit. The other thing that used to happen to the unit when you got powered up is the backhand did get a little bit more loaded up. The newer unit doesn't seem to do that. Again, must be to do with the way they flattened it out and changed the canopy tension. Don't get us wrong, it is power that you want when it comes to busting airs and getting long flight time. That is the wing to have, but it is a little bit of a handful in high winds and gusts. This is a much calmer beast. It's still got the power, it's still got the energy, but it just delivers it in a much more natural way. But definitely the biggest difference, or the thing you need to be thinking about if you are going to be potentially buying a last year's unit compared to this year's unit in any of these constructions, is the handles. Okay, the handles have really changed the game this year. They had stiff handles last year, but the way that they've been fitted onto the main rib and the ergonomics, the pistol grip, the oval shape, so much more comfortable to use. And also look at the size of the unit handles from last year. They looked quite big last year, but now there's hardly any place you can put your hand. So really, when it comes to maneuvering your hands on the wing, much better handles, much better positioning for your hands. Looking at the sharp edges as well, there's way more sharp edges. You can see the screws are exposed on the last year's unit. This is a much sleeker wing compared to last year's. So to give you a summary of the unit, in particular the SLS, and touching on the other two units in the 2025 range, these wings are definitely more user-friendly than last year's, but they still offer you that good level of power and performance that last year's gave you as well. But the way they deliver that power is definitely way more comfortable. Having the SLS in the range between the standard unit and the full D-Lab is really a fantastic move for Duotone. I think if you can afford to go up from the standard unit to the SLS, it is the wing to go for. It's lighter, it's stiffer, and resell a little bit easier as well. The full D-Lab, it is a beautiful wing. I haven't used the 2025, but I can imagine it's still a fantastic wing. It's a bit too much for me personally. I don't need that type of performance. This SLS is ample enough for what I need. Still going to be so happy for all types of winging, and I do think the price jump up for that is quite a lot. But the price jump up from the standard unit to the SLS is well worth it. Whether it's boom or handles, if you've come from windsurfing and kite surfing, I would just say go straight for the boom. But I do think maybe if you're looking at a bigger wing, 5 or 6 meter, try and have a go on each of the setups if you can. It maybe change the feel of the wing at that point. You could be looking for this wing to get into winging, and you could be looking for this wing to improve and progress as a wing surfer, downwinder or freestyler. It is a wing that's going to do it all, and I guarantee you're going to be happy with it. And the build qualities and materials that are into this are definitely top notch. I hope you found this review interesting and informative. If you've own a unit or an SLS unit from this year, please let us know your thoughts. Of course, subscribe and like and all that jazz. Also check out SUPboarder Pro, which is our next level of SUP and foil content. If you're mad keen on those disciplines, there's lots on there that you will not see on YouTube. And of course, you get to ask the experts as well, where you get to ask us or any of our team infinite number of questions about the sport you want to get into, maybe certain gear to buy, or maybe the best technique for you to learn as well. My name is Ruben. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on another video soon.